Joining us is the youth development strategist, Dr. Ojon. Don, it's good to have you in the studio right now.
It's a pleasure.
Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Morning.
I'm just wondering, what exactly does a youth development strategist do?
Actually, it's very new in Nigeria, and I must say I pioneered it in 2008 when we discovered that an average youth in Nigeria always wants to blame the government for everything that happens to him or her. So in 2008, we started something that we help the youth realize their potentials and to develop them. So the idea is we pick them up from the secondary school, tell them, plant the can-do spirit of an average Nigerian in them and see them grow to achieving their goals. So basically what we do is to mentor them to develop, to grow them and to encourage them that it doesn't matter what they are going through, that they can actually become whosoever they want to be. So that's the idea.
Okay. Yeah. Now, even in the midst of this, you listened to the report we played earlier on.
Yeah.
The general perception around the youth, whether it is the Nigerian youth or the African youth, is all the same.
Yeah.
They have, if you weigh them against the positive and negative, you have more of a negative perception about the average youth of today than the positivity. Why is that?
Okay, I'm just going to quickly tell you the three challenges that are facing the Nigerian youth or the African youth that is preventing them from achieving their dream, and that is why you see them at every point in time, they do what the society does not expect them to do. The first one is that we are born in a generation of highly cultural people. People are born into a particular culture, they have a way of doing things, and for example, I used to tell people I was born into a civil service culture. My father, everybody in my family. So it got to a time I got involved in the civil service and I was frustrated. If at that point in time I had not known what to do, then I may be on the street now, be one of those people that are causing problems. So the first thing is that our culture as a people has failed us. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is that we are born in a generation that of people that never want to take responsibility. And I'm going to define responsibility in two terms. The first one, how it sounds, is your response to what life throws at you. How can you positively respond to whatever life throws at you? The second one is taking responsibility that whatever happens to you, you are actually responsible. That's the second one. The third one, we are born in a generation where people run after the assets they do not have, as against the assignment they do have. Now the asset they do not have, an average youth has seen you drive a very big car. For example, they want to drive car. They don't want to go through the process of the product. They just want to see the product. So these are the major three challenges that we are facing. And when you look at them, it's basically as a result of what the society has done to us as youth, because it's going to be unfair to me to actually heap all the blame on an average Nigerian youth. It's also as a product of what the society has done. So if my expectation from the society is not met, then will you blame me if I take to the street, if I don't have anybody to caution me, if I don't have anybody to actually lecture me, if I don't have anybody to mentor me? So these are the basic challenges. That is why you see at every point in time when you mention youth in Africa, people around the world feel like we are not really achieving our potentials as youth.
That's, I mean, it's so profound what you've just said there, that society in effect has actually failed the youth. Now, looking back, Mike, I mean, when you read history, you hear about people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Awolowos and all the rest of them. These were young people, you know, when they got involved in politics and eventually governance of Nigeria, and they actually blazed the trail. Nobody handed it to them.
Yeah.
They actually fought for it. Now, do you absolve the youth entirely of course you did say that, you know, the youth need to take responsibility.
Yeah.
But, you know, to what extent really are the youth themselves to blame for not, you know, stepping to the plate when it comes to whether it's politics or
business
whatever,
or anything,
sphere of life?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to just do it 60-40. 60 for the society and 40 for the youth. You know why I said that? Because even those who sent you to school, I was actually sent to school to study something, and when I came out, I said, oh, I thought I was fit for governance. And I told my parents that, oh, at this point in time, I think I want to try my hand in politics. And they said, God forbid. It shows that even those people who trained you do not believe in your ability as a youth. That is number one. The second thing is that the society has not actually prepared the ground for you. The only thing I was taught is to go to school. I never knew that I can actually go to school and come back as an illiterate. And that's exactly what has happened to many youth. They've only encouraged us. It's the culture of the people to go to school. It is never our culture to get educated. We have gone to school and we have returned uneducated. So they cannot trust us with power. And now when you were talking about, in 1960, I remember that the average population of Nigeria was just somewhere around 50 million people. In 1982, it became about 71 or 77 million. Now we are talking about close to 200 or even more than 200 million people. So the struggle has become tighter to the point that those people who were ruling us at the point of 1982, at the point of 1973, are those set of people that are still ruling us because they do not believe in our ability. They've only sent us to school. They have never given us the opportunity. If you open the pages of newspaper today, what do you see? You see people, you see advertisement of organizations, companies who want people to work for them. And the year of experience is put at 10. Where do you want me to get that one? Unfortunately,
and that in itself is skewed against the youth.
Honestly, it's actually to put us on the line of survival. If I am continually, I can't feed. Let's go to politics briefly. Now in politics, the last election conducted, if you are 30 years old, you can go to House of Assembly. I was 30 in 2015. So it shows that I could have gone into the House of Assembly. But the expression form of PDP was 1.1 million naira. Of APC, it was around 550,000 naira. Where do you want me to get that? It shows that with my average salary of an average Nigerian youth, which is between 80 and 120,000, I have to work for how many years to raise a million naira for expression of form? So the society is built.
And that doesn't guarantee you're going to win.
I'm going to win. So to serve Nigeria has become by force because I have to borrow money to buy form. I have to borrow money to campaign. Unfortunately, the political system is so messed up that you will not believe in me. Even if I come with my very sound ideas, you will not. Everybody is looking at what to gain from the society. And it's as a result, I wasn't born when this thing started. This is the culture I was born into. It's very disheartening. So when you come up to say, oh, the youth cannot take up power, I have challenged a number of governors who said they became senators at 30. One of them actually spoke to me. And I said, at that point, you went to your village and you campaigned. Nobody was expecting you to give money. Even as at 1993, when he became a senator.
30 is already 5 years or 6 years above the limits, you know, of what we describe as youth. Somewhere around
of course,
18 and 25.
In fact, that is one of the problems we have. The United Nations defines a youth as a person between the ages of 14 and 24 and 25 in some cases. Now in Nigeria, if you are 55, we still say you are youth. And this question keeps coming. Who then is a youth? And I decided in one of my books that we hit the ground very soon. I decided to say, okay, at this point in time, don't let us talk about what the calendar says about you. Once you have the strength of the hand and the strength of the heart, the strength of the hand is ability, the strength of the heart is capacity, then you simply pass as a youth. It doesn't matter at that point in time whether you are 20 or you are 40.
Okay.
All right. So now with lack of education, unemployment and all of that, and the UN hopes that the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals will be led or driven by the youth. Yeah. Looking at the Nigerian youth, really, do you think he is actually equipped to drive this vision? Okay,
except if everybody, and I'm going to start from the policy. We begin from the policy, we get to the process before we get the product. The policy solely resides with the government. Except if we have people that are truly born again. And born again means that we want to have a change of heart. That at this point in time, we want to deliberately include these people in policy making. For example, there are some laws, even as a family person, that you want to make. You have to involve your wife. Because you know at the end of the day that it's going to affect her in one way or the other. So I would not want a situation, for example, where a 60-year-old man will make a policy for a 24 or 20-year-old man, as said by the United Nations, to follow. Because this is a 21st century. 21st century does not answer to experience. It answers to innovation. In other words, all the experiences you have gathered between 1960 and 2000 or 1999 are so irrelevant. So you must put people, and innovation reside with the youth as we speak now. So you must put these people in charge of policy formulation. Involve them, let them. I have a full-time job. With what I do presently, I'm not sure whether I will be ready to serve in government. But I can give you policies even free of charge. So involve these people, and they are scattered across the space of Nigeria. Involve them in policy making. Then the process resides with the society. Let the society for once believe in the ability of the youth. So when we have these two put together, then we're going to have product, and the product are the youth, and then we make exploit. If you travel around the world today, and with my reading and my experience, I know that averagely the innovations we have in governance, the innovations we have in business, talk about Facebook, talk about all the social media, are actually driven by people of young generation. It shows that at this point in time, innovation is what we need. So for us to get there in Nigeria, for us to get there in Africa, we must deliberately involve young people in policy formulation. If not, we will get there. I was a boy when I heard that there was a vision 2010 in Nigeria. The vision 2010 in Nigeria was that by the year 2010, every Nigerian will have a home of their own. We came to 2010, they shifted it, and we had vision 2020, that Nigeria will be one of the biggest economy. Now the MDG was even for 2015. How far did we go? Now we have
it's
another
SDG now.
SDG 2030. I'm afraid that those who drafted the policy drafted it to suit their environment, because they know that, oh, we can deliberately allow young people to function. Unfortunately, we bought into it without the readiness. What is the readiness? Ability to take our hands off and allow these people to come in. I know it's not going to be easy, because even if your father starts a company and at the age of 70 he wants to retire, he will only retire or resign or go to rest as the managing director. He will still like to remain the chairman, so that you will still be feeding him. So I know it's very difficult for people to give up power, but give us an opportunity and we're going to surprise them.
Okay, now let's see from this perspective. There seems to be a clash when it comes to the African context. Now, they say the world is a global village, where what obtains in New York, what obtains in London, one way or the other, there's a copy, and then they paste it in Nairobi, or paste it in Lagos, or paste it in Abuja or Johannesburg, as the case may be. Now, the African culture is a peculiar culture, peculiar scenario where the way we do things here, you can't just wake up and do that in London, and it will not make sense, as the case may be. Now, the African man or the African young person is taught in a certain way, either as a Yoruba person, or as a Hausa person, or Igede person, or Igbo, as the case may be. Now, when there is a clash between, for instance, you are in Lagos, and then the metropolitan nature of Lagos, you want to be civilized, you want to do things the way a New Yorker does things and all of that, but they still remind you that either you are Hausa, you belong to a culture. Now, do you think there's a clash between our culture and modernity, which is not giving a direction to where the African youth should be?
Modernity is a global thing, but the clash lies in the process of modernity. Let me give an example of democracy. What we practice, check all the African countries. I have read all of them. Give me one African country that has a thriving democracy. Give me one. It's because of the fact that at best what we have in Africa is what I term, I'm yet to develop it, I term it palace democracy. Palace democracy, where the Igwe will sit down and everybody will say Rankadede. And that is why you see an average president has 2 people, 3 or 4 people carrying their bags. It doesn't happen in saner society. Everything that we take out, in the last 3 years, I've read 214 books on leadership. And I am trying, from everything I've read, my major challenge is to actually bring it home to benefit my people. Because I saw that some of these things cannot benefit us. Why? Because the society where the writer resides is different from Africa. So it doesn't understand the peculiarity of Africa. This is what we need to do as young people. We must begin to take in innovation as much as we can and try to localize it. How does it work? If I am going to do one particular thing, for example, how does Iyatiti, who sells yam at my 12, how does she get to benefit? If I'm going to bring in something from the US, that is why you see an average person imported. I'm sorry to say this. An average person imported to help our government has never done anything. Go and check them, because the philosophy outside there is different from what we have there. So it's now our duty as young people. Why? Because we have the capacity of the heart to think beyond what we have, to import some of these things and begin to localize it to benefit our people. So it's not about the modernization, it's about the process of modernization.
Let's even look at the quality, of education that is given the average Nigerian youth or African youth for that matter, the education he gets, does it really prepare him for the real world, for the peculiarities of his own environment in such a way that he's fully armed so that when he goes into society, he's able to turn things around, for the better? Isn't that where society needs to start from, policymakers and all of that? Make the education in such a way that it will truly equip the Nigerian youth.
Okay, I think you're right. Because if care is not taken, the man that taught me in college some 20 years ago or some 10 years ago will still be the same man that will teach my kids. He's still in the same university. And if you read communication, for example, you can tell me that since you started practicing, that there were a number of things that you were taught in the college that are no longer relevant to what you do. It shows that at every point in time, even in the university, forget about this PhD. Forget about having PhD, forget about this thing. An average musician in Nigeria today does not go to college to read music. They got the information, the education on the street. They only went to the school to polish whatever information they have. So that has to do with leadership. Let's begin to train ourselves in the art of leadership right from now, so that when we get to the university, it will not totally conflict with what we have in the society. Okay, let me now begin from another angle entirely different. One of the things that I was posting on Facebook this morning, so that I will not sound as if I'm a foreigner, I tried to let the people know what I've gone through. And one of the things that really has helped me is my mother. My mother is an illiterate, but at every point in time, whenever there was an incident that happened in 1986, a governor came to our community to inaugurate a project. And at that point in time, from that day, my mother used to remind me that someday you will be in that position. She's not saying that because she really wants me to be a governor, but to take leadership responsibility. That's some kind of education. So when I got to school, I knew what I was there for. I knew my first assignment was not to get all the A's, was to become a student union president. I knew that because my mother was telling me, how do you interpret that kind of education? So we should not leave the education of our young one in the hands of the institution. Let's begin to do our own path, even as parents. That is why I drank from the same source of water where my people were passing their feces. I'm a Nigerian youth. I went through that place. I didn't allow that. The first money I made in my life, an uncle came, collected everything from me. I became poor again. I'm a Nigerian youth, and I continue. 5 years ago, my salary could not take me home. I'm a Nigerian youth. I continue because I knew I have to break through all these challenges to actually get to the point where I'm going. And what helped me is the education, but not the education I got from the school. It was the one I got from the house. So as we are talking about changing the policy of education inside the school, we should also talk about changing our focus of education so that an average, like in Lagos now, I tell people, I give leadership talk across schools in Lagos. And one thing that I see as a very negative point is the fact that at 7 a.m. or 6:30, a parent comes, dump the child, and goes to school, pays as high as 200,000 naira. Meanwhile, the teacher that is training your child, his salary is about 30,000. So he has not even eaten. He doesn't even have the capacity to train him very well. So he gets out of school more than an illiterate. Gets into higher institution, that thing continues. Because even whatever he learns from the higher institution is not practicable in the real world. So education inside, education outside.
All right, now you talk about policy by government. These are supposed to be foundational ideals generally. Yeah. But where we don't have that as functional as it's supposed to be, you just give us an analogy. You pass through the system, it's the same environment the average Nigerian youth passes through. We all also, many of us went through the same system of lack of inadequacy, of different kind of hardship at one point or the other, which reflects the life of an average Nigerian youth as the case may be. It is that same environment. Some person, you just made reference to Nigerian musicians and all of that. It is the same environment they pass through. What does it take for that self-realization where you know, okay, where we are, government is going to try, but that may not help you. Where we are, education is going to try, but that may not help you, as the case may be. Where in that same circumstance, you decide to bring yourself out of that circumstance and put yourself up somewhere. So what does it take to come to that self-realization where you want to make a change, you want to be different in the midst of all of this jam that we find ourselves?
The first thing you have to decide with clarity is that you are not here to survive. Because what keeps us, there are a number of people, forget about people not knowing what they want to do. I've interacted with them in hundreds of thousands. And I know these people actually know what to do. A number of them will come to you and say, this is what I want to do, but I have to survive. So you've got to kill the enemy called survivor. Don't be afraid. Nothing kills faster than poverty. Like if you do not eat for 3 days, you are not going to die, for example. So what you should be afraid of is living an average life, not survivor. So the first major problem we have in the country is survivor. And because we are hammering, just last year, the vice president said, oh, over 100 million Nigerians are poor. Nigerian youth, many of them are poor. We have accepted that fact. So we must begin to move away from the poverty of the pocket, because if you do not conquer the problem of empty pocket, you will think money has been the problem all the while. It is now when you conquer that you know, oh, money after all has not been the problem. So until we begin to know that poverty is not a product of what your pocket does not carry, it's a product of what your heart does not have the capacity to carry. Let me give you an instance. I had a project, a very big project, and I was running from pillar to post, begging people to give me money to support the project. It's going to benefit the people. Until a time, I was just working. Because a number of people, you know them, the first question is, what do I have to benefit? Since there was nothing to benefit, nobody is going to
throw in money.
Yeah. So I was just working one day, and it just occurred to me that why don't I do what money, what time has prevented me from doing? Now, money is preventing me from doing something. But there's something that time is preventing me from doing, which is writing book. And I decided there and then, oh, this project, go and sit down. Let me write book. I do not need money to write book, for example. So you must begin to see the other side of life that is beyond money. It's very difficult.
You know, it's very interesting you talk about writing a book, and it doesn't cost money.
It doesn't.
Reading a book, on the other hand.
On the other hand, yeah.
One person writes that somebody who is expected to read. Who was it that said, if you want to, hide anything from an African, just put it in a book. And you have been able to equip yourself mentally, psychologically, and all of that through reading. And you are what you read, because you take the experiences of different people and just align it with your own vision. Now, speak to the issue of the
reading culture.
The reading culture among the youth. They're not even thinking about it.
Okay, you are as good as what you read. Like I have a peculiar challenge. On the 20th, I will be in a place to speak. And if you look at the number of people that are going to be there, they are virtually people that have traveled across the world. They're virtually people who know everything about international governance. And so if you pair me to speak with our people, I know I will mess up myself. So I do not have a choice than to read up, so that when you are talking about a place I do not know in the US, I can actually also contribute. Not because I've been there, but because I've read about it. Exactly. So you must deliberately accept challenges. How do you do this? See people you want to mentor. Anybody can mentor anybody. It could be, we are very religious people in Nigeria. You could pick somebody from the church and begin to mentor them. You understand? By so doing, don't let me deceive you. This 21st century we are in, forget about experience. It is the kind of book you can read that is relevant to this century that will make you. That's why people continue to wish for something. They will not get it. And those who do not wish for them will continue to get them. It's not because life is unfair, but life only looks for people that are qualifiedly ready. Not just I am qualified in terms of certificate. Your certificate has only made you an illiterate, because beyond the certificate you do not have anything. If I take the certificate, just imagine if I'm coming on air to speak now and I pack all the book, everybody knows that this man is an illiterate. But it took me time to get to where I am. But the interesting thing is, I decided I was going to start, even when there was no money. And I was starting gradually. The year is immaterial. The number of time you invest in it does not matter. At the end of the day, what matters is who you become.
All right, Dr. John, Youth Development Strategist, thanks for talking to us, and happy International Youth Day.
I don't know whether I'm saying youth.
By the standards of United Nations,
we are
no longer youth.
No, I am. We are not working.
We're elders now.
It's a stark reality.
UN says it's 15 to 24.
So sorry, before I go, quickly, I like to drop this.
Yes.
One thing that has helped me is that I've been able to put my life in this perspective. So every day I know I have to invest it. If you are 100 years, for example, you have only lived for 36,500 days. That's if you put your life in this perspective. And that is what has helped me. I know it will help a lot of people too.
Indeed. Okay. And in addition to that, research shows that, at 60, if you sleep 8 hours every day, you would have spent 20
20 years sleeping.
How about that?